All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Unit 2, Chemistry of Biology. Just like this slide says, life and the study of life, biology, 100% relies on chemistry. This is the periodic table of elements. I'm sure you've all seen it a million times before, and I'm sure it looks no less confusing this time than it did all those previous times. We aren't going to really talk much about the periodic table or what all these numbers mean, what all these letters mean. What I really want to impress upon you on this slide is that these are all the elements, the atoms that exist in this entire universe. And these atoms, also known as elements, that you see before you are what make up everything. Everything you can think of are made up by these things on this screen. From these lavender plants, life depends on chemistry. To this strange looking marsupial, life depends on chemistry. Living things, like you and I, are dependent and composed of chemical compounds. All those atoms and elements you saw on the periodic table, those come together to make bigger things like you and I, and cells, which we are made of. All of these things are made of chemicals, atoms, and ultimately cells. So in order to understand biology, we have to have a basic understanding of chemistry. We have to understand that atoms and molecules come together to make larger things like cells, and then those cells come together to make larger things like you and I. But no better place to start than the very, very, very bottom, and that is with one of the smallest units of matter in existence, and that is the atom. The atom is the basis of our understanding of chemistry. All right, especially for you and I in biology, there's no reason to go any smaller. There's no reason to delve into the atom more than we need to. We just need to understand its basic properties and how the heck these things come together to make our cells and then make us and other living things. So the atom is the basic unit of matter. Not to be confused with the cell, that is the basic unit of life. The atom is the smallest particle of a substance that still retains the properties of that substance. Now that's a little confusing. All right, that's a little confusing. All that means is a single atom of iron has all the same properties as a giant bridge made of iron. Okay? The iron that makes up this big bridge has the same chemical properties as this singular atom of iron. That's all that's saying. Now, atoms are made up of things. Okay, as you can see in my image here, we have this red center and these kind of blue dots that look like they're orbiting around the center. These are called subatomic particles. All right, subatomic means smaller than the atom itself. The atom, which we see pictured here, is actually made up of 3 of these smaller particles. These 3 particles come together to make a singular atom. These are our 3 subatomic particles: the proton, the neutron, and the electron. Now, protons and neutrons, they're about the same size, and they come together to make the nucleus. The nucleus is this guy right here. It's the red central part of an atom. Okay, the middle is what the nucleus refers to. So protons and neutrons come together to live here in the atom. Now electrons are infinitely smaller than protons and neutrons. In fact, as you can see here, their mass is about 1/1840th the mass of a proton or a neutron, so infinitely smaller. And these electrons are the blue dots that we see that kind of look like they're orbiting around this central nucleus where the protons and neutrons are. Now, before we go too much further, now that we understand that protons and neutrons live inside the nucleus and that these electrons live outside the nucleus, kind of floating around, or you might see on these images how they look like they're orbiting around the nucleus, I want to clear that up right now. This is just a model for us to understand the properties of an atom and how atoms work. This is not exactly how an atom looks. Yes, protons and neutrons live inside the nucleus. They are at the centermost point of the atom. But it's the electrons that we can't accurately depict in our model. They don't orbit around like planets around the sun. Okay? These orbits that you're seeing on the screen here, these kind of blue lines that showing where these dots are traveling, that's more in reality like a cloud, like a foggy area around this central nucleus of protons and neutrons, where these electrons could be found in any part of what's called the electron cloud. Okay, that's reality. This is a model that we as scientists use to simplify things down far enough that we can still understand all the properties.